when you have a cold environment, the relative humidity of that environment drops significantly. And so you evaporate water very easily. So in Minnesota, when we get those 20 below days with 30-mile-an-hour wind, you know, the fluid that's in the tank will evaporate to a certain degree. And when it evaporates, eventually you start to get accumulation of these crystals. Yeah, my name is Jim Halbeisen, and this is my opinion. We had some issues in the state of Minnesota this spring with delivering material because our dump facility or our dump station or our accumulated station had crystals that were in the bottom of the tank that came from the grower's material. And these crystals are something that farmers recognize or see. Even on my own farm, when the product dehydrates, you've got a liquid product that's holding a certain amount of dry mineral in it. And we've got it to a concentration when the water starts to evaporate out of it, the concentration gets too high and the water can no longer contain it. So you get solid material in there. But what is so interesting about the grower's product is that when it goes through a hot mix procedure, it's a chemical reaction that composes the elements in the solution or in the fluid totally different than just a suspension. And this is something that a lot of people can't understand. And see, what happened is over a period of time, when you have a cold environment, the relative humidity of that environment drops significantly. And so you evaporate water very easily. So in Minnesota, when we get those 20 below days with 30-mile-an-hour wind, you know, the fluid that's in the tank will evaporate to a certain degree. And when it evaporates, eventually you start to get accumulation of these crystals. And the crystals that form are in a particular order. They have a crystalline structure which comes from the chemical reaction that is used to make the product. And what we found very interesting, these had accumulated over a period of time. You know, every year, if you don't pull everything out of the tank, these crystals start to accumulate. Well, they had gotten concentrated enough in there, it was giving us trouble, you know, pulling liquid material out of there. So we opened up the side. There's like a manhole where you could get in the tank, and you could see this accumulation of crystals that had occurred over, you know, maybe a 35-year period, plus, you know, just the age of the product and the temperature and environment created these crystals. And what is so unique about them that we took some of them, we grabbed a handful of them, and they're very safe because the product is made from tech and food grade materials. So it's very safe to handle. If you get it on yourself, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it'll burn a cut, or, you know, you wouldn't want to get it in your eye. It would give you some like getting salt water in your eye, but it's very, very safe. And we were able to take these crystals. Some of them were a little lumpy or like the size of a brick. And when we took that and put it into warm water, it dissolved immediately. And see, that's a very unique characteristic about growers, that even after it dehydrates, you can resaturate it with water and it'll go right back into the same concentration of all the elements. Many products, when you dehydrate them, they'll never go back into solution again. And if you look at the early fall edition of the Grower's Solution in 2023, we comment on that in an experiment that was done, dehydrating different products and then rehydrating them. The growers went back in the perfect solution, whereas the other products would not. And see, this is where you guys get segregation. You buy a liquid product, or you buy a product and you put brown bag trace elements in there and agitate it. And the first thing they do is separate. And see, they tell you, well, just re-agitate it. Well, all you're doing is resuspending it. You're not solubilizing it. And actually, once a product has been dehydrated, its ability to solubilize goes down quite significantly if you do not put it through a chemical reaction. And so this is very important. Like when you plant with a liquid product, like in the 2023 year, we had these very dry areas. So you applied the product as a liquid, but it didn't rain for 3 or 4 weeks. It dehydrated. Now, when the first rain came along, did that go back into solution? And in many, many cases, almost all cases, other than our product, it won't go back into solution. See, so your effectiveness goes down quite significantly. And that's a very important characteristic of growers. It affects the price because it costs a certain factor to do hot mix or chemically react, but we think it's so critical to get uniformity of the product so that when you use a small amount of trace elements, you can get them dispersed everywhere in the field and not just concentrated in certain areas. And that's very important for vegetables, and it's important for all crops, but vegetables, it's very, very important that you don't have certain nutritional deficiencies because it's not spread throughout the field uniformly. This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.